Hi, and welcome to the Sovereign Sisters podcast. I'm your host, Angela Atkins, and today I'm honored to host a very special guest, Joe McKinney from the Ancient Enigma Files. This episode is dedicated to exploring both mysteries of the ancient world and remarkable stories of modern day service. Now, Joe's YouTube channel, the Ancient Enigma Files, has captivated countless of truth seekers by uncovering hidden mysteries, cryptids, UFOs, and conspiracies, and he invites viewers to question the world around them. But today is even more meaningful because it takes place on Veterans Day, and it's a fitting time to recognize Joe's service in the Navy. We're grateful, Joe, for your contribution to the country, both in uniform and ongoing in your work with Project First Step, a charity that you support, helping those who need a fresh start. So I'm happy to have everybody join us, and I want to turn over and say, again, thank you for your service, Joe, and welcome to Sovereign Sisters podcast.
Oh wow! You just became my PR girl. Like wow, you made me feel like I'm a like I'm a lot up higher than I was. Yeah, so thank you. You're more than welcome. You're absolutely more than welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna have you do all my intros from now on.
Love to. That sounds great.
Right?
Actually, I'd really love to hear about, a memorable experience or something that you carry from your Navy days, and like what kind of impact did it have on your approach to life?
So I was actually kind of an anomaly for when it comes to the U.S. the modern day armed services. I was actually in the military at 17. I was in on a lot of waivers. That was common around the Vietnam area, more common so during World War II and the Korean War, but it became less common as it goes and as we progressed. And when I went into the Navy, I was wanting to get away badly, right? So I went in at 17. As a matter of fact, I was in the military at least. I didn't stop growing until I was literally 22. That they had to change my shoe size and my uniform size like 4 times. That's a true story. Like from between the ages of 17 and 22, I went up 2 shoe sizes and my as well as the length on my pants though. No, I had a lot of time in the Navy. I had a good time in the military. I was blessed to say that God was looking out for me a lot. I was a boy. I was totally a boy when I went in. I went through MEPS. I went through all of the schools that I went through. Had no idea what I wanted, what I was getting myself into, but I landed in the naval intelligence field. And spent like most of my time literally in Japan, overseas, Southeast Asia, back and forth, and then I got out, and then it allowed me to progress and actually have a career outside of the military, which normally, I mean, they don't tell you this, but if you're a tank driver in the Army, there's not a lot of positions when you get out of the Army to continue driving tanks, right? But I was fortunate enough that I was able to have a skill set, a lot of skill sets actually that was able to be commercialized when I came out as well. And also I saw the world, and also I saw some weird things that actually impacted my life. I'm debating on whether to do a podcast on that on my 50th episode or my 100th episode. We're dropping our 49th episode on Monday, but I have actually seen things that don't make any sense at the time, but it's making perfect sense at this time right now. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to dominate the conversation with that because that would lead into something. So yeah, no, had a good time. Like I said, I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of time in Southeast Asia, too much time in the bars. But you know what? I came out with my hearing, my eyes, and my arms and my legs. And so I was grateful for that at the end though. Yeah, but thank you.
Sure. We have somebody who has a comment for you, and they thank you for your service.
Oh, you're welcome. You're so welcome. Uh, you're welcome very much. That still makes me feel weird though. I don't know why, man. Most veterans I know of that makes us feel uncomfortable. I don't know why it is, but it just does. But thank you. You're welcome. So you're
Well,
welcome.
I feel like, from what I understand from my own husband being in the service, that it's a kind of a calling. You feel called to do it. It's like it's not you're somebody special. It's
Yeah.
just that's what you're called to do. So I understand why you feel that way. But I think for those of us who cannot, or who, for whatever reason, don't go into the military, we feel that special need to say thank you because
Yeah.
you're doing this for us. And so for that, We do
Yeah,
thank you.
I used to see these things on social media that I thought was kind of cheesy, right? Where it's just like some, like this kind of always you'll see some guys in the military, and it's like some men are just born with a fight, just an unsatiable nature. Most of the time, I was just trying to stay alive. It wasn't about a fight, man. Like and then also too, I'm hard on other veterans because I am one. I can say what I want to say, and I'll back it up any way you want to back it up, right? I
Yeah.
don't know anybody to talk like that when we were in. I don't know nobody talk like that. Everybody that I was in the military with, man, we all came from shite situations, man, and we're all damn near homeless. We were broke. We didn't have anything, and we had nowhere to go, right? And so when we got in, and we were boys. Like I said, I was a boy when I was in. I wasn't even close to being a man. I was a boy, right? And so most of the time, it's just like I don't want to die. I want to survive, right? And I want to, have something at the end of the day, right? So yeah, that just makes me feel weird, but at the same time, I get it, man. It makes it more romantic, but it's definitely not a PlayStation game, man. It respawns. So, but anyway, so yeah, like I said, it made me. It had a huge impact in my life, right? And it taught me discipline. It taught me not to never to give up. It taught me to, those corny little things, man. There's actually truth in that, man. That stuff like that. It teaches you resilience. It makes you tough. It will teach you how to fight, how to really fight, right? Not, most people when they're in on the street, you're not really in a fight. You just want to hit somebody, right? That's not a fight. It teaches you how to fight, teaches you how to win, teaches you how to lose, man. And so at the end of the day, man, like I said, I know I needed it. I would have probably, I say this with total humility, I would have been in prison about 22 or 21 or 23 years old if I wasn't been in the military. And I wasn't one of those type of hoodlums where you would knock over a 7-Eleven. Like you would see me on the news knocking over a bank with like 7 guys in a helicopter doing a diamond heist or something like that. That's what it would have been, right? But no, like I said, I enjoyed my time. I got to see the world, and it, like I said, it has been a big part, an influence in my life, and I'm glad. I'm fortunate for it. But thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, from your time in the Navy, and now you're diving into mysteries of the ancient world, did the military experience shape that
Yeah.
kind of current work?
Yeah. So, like I said, I grew up in Upper East Tennessee at the tip, right on the Virginia North Carolina border, right in that little area. I grew up in that area right there. So if you pull it up on a map, you will see that it was smack dab in the mid. It is smack dab in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains, right? And so when I grew up, when I was going through high school, it, it was the boys in that area. They're different. We got shotguns at 13. We went out. We took a hunter safety course at high school. Like it was just different. Like you were just outside, and then there were stories that you would hear about Bigfoots. And at the time they would describe these things that they call them rakes or crawlers. Right now, we didn't call them that when I was there, but I'd heard stories about it. That name is fairly modern to them. But then you'd also hear stuff, man, that goes on in those areas. You have moonshine that still goes on there. You have ginseng poachers. I don't know if you know what that is, but ginseng.
No.
So a lot of people have these massive properties, and people would go on there in the middle of the night, and they steal ginseng root and they sell it, right? And people get really mad when you do that because it is very valuable, and so you have to deal with that type of stuff. But then that's not the most craziest thing that happened to me. The most craziest thing that ever happened to me went over a 2-year, 3-year period when I was in Japan and followed me to Diego Garcia. That was the like. There's a story to be told there, and I'm going to tell it. But that was weird. I mean, that was the stuff that I was like, okay. But then when I came back, life takes off, and the hustle goes on, and you just put things to the side. But then we went through COVID, and everybody was locked down, and I was in here, and I never wanted to be in the military. I tell you what I wanted to be, and most people think I'm crazy. I only really wanted to ever do really two things, right? The first one is I wanted to be an air traffic controller. I wanted to land airplanes. I know people don't believe me when I tell you that, but that's what Big Daddy wanted to do. I just wanted to sit in the air. I wanted to sit there and land airplanes, man.
That's a
God said,
stressful job.
God said no. That's not going to happen for you. And the second thing that I wanted to do Because I wanted to be a history professor. I wanted to teach history at a university. And I was like, God said, no, that's not happening for you either, right? So I got in, and then I got in the military, and the next thing you know, had a top secret TSSCI clearance. I was learning naval, you know, cryptography and how to be a spook, and that was like literally never on my radar to do, never something I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. So when I went through COVID, everybody was locked down. We were all in there, and I've always been like a reader. I just read things, right? Like I'm not lying. If I go, I'll read. I've been into the dentist office and I'll pick up a women's health magazine and I'm sitting there reading on how to handle menopause. What does that even? Why am I doing that? Right? I don't. I just read, right? So I read everything that I can get my hands on, and then at a certain point in my life, I started to say like, yo, that's like that don't that's not that can't be right. That's how is that even possible, right? Like, so my BS flag started going off. So during COVID, I was like, you know what? We were in the house, we were doing this. I decided that I was going to out for funsies. I was going to make a video on how it is physically impossible for the Egyptians to build the pyramids. It just did not. It could not happen, right? So I created this guy back here, right? That's actually Professor Anthony Augustus, the bastard son of Indiana Jones. I just made that guy up, right? I just made him up, right? And I made an Instagram page. I made this video. It's pinned on my profile, and I made this video saying that look, these are 100-ton granite stones cut with laser precision that are put together with no mortar. You can't even put a piece of paper between it, right? And the only way that those people could cut stone back then was this process called abrasion, where you take sand and you pour sand on granite and you pour water on it, which, they had the river there. And two guys that are 110 pounds wearing diapers with a can do attitude to sit there and saw this block in half. It is impossible that they did that, right? In fact, they leave a big story out of it is that if you read the Bible, there are no more Egyptians. When in the book of Kings, God sent Nebuchadnezzar down to punish the Israelites for sacrificing their children to Baal and Moloch. And as a reward for that, he gave Nebuchadnezzar Egypt. Nebuchadnezzar went into Egypt and killed or took everybody. They're all gone. He took them all back to Babylon. He let some of the Jews leave because Daniel in the book of the Bible will tell you he let them go back, but no Egyptians ever went back. The Kemites, which were in the middle southern part of Africa, just migrated north and they found those ruins. They in their stories, they don't ever tell you they built them. They never claim that. It's only modern day Egyptians that say we built those things. There's not a story of Jewish slaves building the pyramid. That's not even close to being accurate, right? You go in there and you look at the hieroglyphics on the wall. These people had manuals on how to mummify a cat. You understand? A cat, step by step directions, right? But you'll find no directions on how to make those stones, how that pyramid was built, or nothing, right? It's not there. In fact, the Kemites tried to recreate it, and they built this thing called the Red Pyramid. And it looks like me and three of my boys out there with bricks and mud just stacking it up. It is horrible, not even close to it, right? So I made that. I mean, it's not even really hidden. You barely have to read, right? And so I put this up there. I had like 7 followers, and there were people that were related to me that I made follow me, right? I went to bed, man. I woke up to think like 120,000 views on it, man. I had like 1,000 subscribers, and then like everybody was fighting in there. They were arguing, right? And I was like, all right, man. So after that, man, I was like, all right, it's kind of fun. And so then it just took off from there, man. My cousin said, hey, man, let's start a podcast. I said, I don't know how. He says, me neither. So we start one together, and then life catches up, and he left. And then it just spread from there. And then like it's just I'm constantly pumping and pumping and pumping now. And like I just enjoy doing it and having fun with it. But that's where this really all came from, man. I was just kind of being a troll. I was
I
being
totally get it. I
yeah.
mean, I had the same kind of conversation starting Sovereign Sisters podcast. There were two other ladies with me, and they went off to do their own thing, and I'm like, I'm not done yet. I have so
Yeah,
much more that I want to say.
yeah.
So I totally get that.
But yeah, so that's where it went, and that's how it goes on it. But then, and then I started, coming across some other things. This book over here is the 54 Apocrypha. They were the books that were taken out of the Bible. And then I discovered the Ethiopian Bible, which is 600 years, older than the King James Bible. And then I just started going down in all these rabbit holes about, who the Nephilim were, who the Watchers were. Then I found the tablets, the Anunnaki, how the Sumerian tablets in the Book of Enoch are the exact same story, just told from a biblical standpoint of angels, and the other one is a sci-fi basic novel. And then I started pulling out, and I started pulling out some other things as well, and then I started connecting it to my past. I'm an ex-Freemason, and then all that started making sense when I started looking what was going on. And then also, we should be, if people don't know this, but if you land in Ethiopia, they're on a 13-month, 28-day calendar that we're supposed to be on, with one day of, celebrate the resurrection, which is April 1st. That's really the beginning of the new year. It's not January 1st. That's a pagan holiday of basically celebrating the dead. And then when you see the Rockefellers and the Catholic churches behind it, it just all starts falling into pieces. And so I was started, all right, pointing this stuff out, just pointing it out. And then an audience found it, and people were curious, and they came in. I have a different perspective than most people do when I present my material, because I laugh a lot, and I'm like, and so, and you can't really. I'm almost impossible to insult. So if some people say things to me, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good point, man. That's pretty good. I'm going to use that against myself, right? So that just bounces off of me, right? So, and again, I also say I've watched other YouTube channels, and I talk to other people, and I say something that a lot of people don't say on other channels, and I find it odd, but I say I don't know a lot. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, that's crazy. I know something. I know something's there. Like, you got to be an idiot to not say it's something. But like, I'm not gonna sit there and tell everybody like, hey man, I got X, Y, and Z the answer. But I can tell you it ain't the story they're telling us. I can tell you that's a lie. I can tell you that, right. That don't make no sense now that we're talking about it, right? So that's where it's all
Well,
came
that's
from,
the whole
Angela.
point. We got to make common sense common again. I
Yeah,
mean, that's,
yeah,
people couldn't figure things out
yeah,
because they're not using common sense, critical thinking.
yeah,
So at least that never left you, and it drove you to do what you're doing.
yeah. And so I'm also I feel like, so I'm that guy. Like, they'll say something, and like nine people will shake their head, and I'll be like, "Am I the only one that's going to say that?" Yeah. What are you talking about? There's no shot. There's no shot. There's no shot that happened like that, right? That's impossible, right? Like, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, oh hell, wow, that's amazing." I'm like, "What? Amazing? Really? We're going
So
right to amazing."
is that
So
what led you down the path to creating the Ancient Enigma file, saying this can't possibly be, or there's
yeah,
got to be another
yeah,
explanation?
there has to be another explanation here, man. Like this, like look, so on my channel, I've been blessed to really talk to like a lot of really good people. God has brought a lot of good people onto my channel. There's this guy on the West Coast. His name is Josh Monday. He is a great guy, and he is a staunch flat earther, right? 100%, right? We're both Christians. We're both in the faith, right? He and I had a good hour and 45-minute conversation. That was probably the longest podcast we ever did. We went over probably, and I'm not even lying, probably about 80 Bible verses, right? And that is a master class that I try to tell people on how to listen to somebody's views, see why they think that way, and see why they'll always continue to think that way. And I'm not going to lie, he said things in there that make me question some things. But I've actually flown all the way around the globe. I have, and like from De Garcia, I flew it all the way around the globe, came back the other way. I know it's not round, but I also know that the firmament is real. But it's not a dome. We're not in a fishbowl. There's a large radiation belt that's surrounding us that we can't leave. And also, too, when the Bible says that God separated the waters, that's not water. But I do know that space is not a void. That's called the ether, Aether. There is a substance in space. It's called the ether. Nikola Tesla talked about the ether. It's how the free energy concept takes place upon the globe, right? So when people read the Bible, Jesus could speak Hebrew, but his
Well, that's odd. We just had a minor little glitch. Hopefully, Joe will be right back. I don't know if he's having a power issue or what, but I tell you, his conversation is really interesting. There he is. He's back again. We lost you for a second.
all right, I'm back.
So you were talking about the talking about the firmament and how people will have their own opinions with your flat Earth guy.
I don't want to say it, Angela, but they're on to us. That was just when I started dropping the truth bombs. They want to come in here, they want to try to interrupt the cast, right?
Everybody's entitled to their own opinion and how they think
Yeah,
about it. We're not claiming science. We're claiming we thought this through, and this is what we determine
yeah.
is our position.
So to pick up where that was at, man. So he talks about the ether. The ether is a substance in space, right? So Jesus spoke a dialect called Galilean Aramaic. That what he didn't constantly speak Hebrew, even though he could, right? So a lot of his disciples were in that area. They spoke the same thing. So Galilean Aramaic was translated into Hebrew, then into Latin, then into Greek, and then into all the other languages. You lose, you lose some things along the way. So water, ether, they mightn't even known what the ether.
Well, he came back before. He'll come back again. Maybe he's just having some bandwidth problems. I'm not sure what, but we're going to hang in there. And if you recall, I had done a podcast on the Welcome back, Joe. I was just mentioning that I'd previously done a podcast on the Bible and the different versions of it and how things were lost in translation. And that's basically what you're saying. So we're
Right.
in agreement that there is, a difference in what different Bible versions have out there.
Yeah, for sure. And so when I tell people, if you boil that down to the bottom, whether it's water or the ether, 100%, it's not a void. There's something there, right? And so then you have to agree and try to build on that. But then, of course, it just leads into, like I said, and that's what got me into this, and that's why I kind of just like it there. And plus, it's a lot of fun. I like doing it. I meet a lot of cool people, and then I get a lot. I've connected with people all around the globe. So yeah, that's why I got into it there.
It's cool. Just one thought about what you were just saying. In the Bible it says, "As above and so below." There's got to be water around us. It just makes sense. And I personally, and this is said in humor, and it's not it's not exactly the truth of, I'm not saying it's a scientific fact. I like to think I'm in God's terrarium, and He's growing us because that's the
Oh
way I
yeah,
look. It's like he is watching us over us, and we're not on some big ball spinning out into space. I said we're in God's terrarium, so He can take care of us and
yeah,
have us grow.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And again, so I was having a conversation literally today where they found what they're saying a 3 million-year-old wheel in a coal mine in Vladivostok or around the Ukrainian area, somewhere in there, right? And people were saying to me, "Oh, if that was the case, that means that there must have been people here before God made us." And I'm like, if you read Genesis, it clearly says that already, that there was men on the earth, men of great renown. If you read the Bible, God doesn't say let us make man. He said, let us take man and make him in our image. There was something already here, right? And it also has several different references and scriptures in there when it says those on the earth and in it. It tells you that right several times that there is much 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 going on. And my channel is into UFOs and UAPs. As a matter of fact, on Wednesday, I'm going down to DC to be at the Senate hearings on the UAP. I'm taking off and going down there. I'll be doing some posting down there. I tell people all the time, and what I like to do is that I can speak moderately proficient in physics as well. And if you subscribe to the multi-universe theory, right? that the universes are infinite, which is what they believe, and that all things are possible in, you know, so for example, I'm made of chocolate in one of those universes that you're telling me about, right? Then in one of those universes there is a God. So therefore, if there's a God in one of those universes, he's godlike powers and he can spread out to every universe. So therefore, your theory proves that yes, there is an existence of God. And if God has made multiple universes, why would he just make us? Why just stop with us, right? Like there's God, like I think there's life everywhere, everywhere, right? I think there's life everywhere, and I also do, but I also subscribe to this a lot as well. They already know that. The people know that. They already know. They know that there's life everywhere. They know that life, that there's a lot of stuff going on in space. They know what's up there. They know exactly what's going on underneath our feet. So only to us, they keep us in the dark on purpose to keep us looking stupid, or they want to keep us as dumb as possible. But again, that's part of the satanic agenda to keep you dumb and keep you fat, keep you work until you're 65 and please die at 70, so we can
Yeah,
not have.
it's basically to enslave us. Yeah,
Yeah, totally right. And
absolutely.
at this point, you can't. At this point, you can't like you can't really argue against that point right there, right? So,
So let's roll into the Ancient Enigma Files. I
yep.
really want to understand. I'm not one who has a history of looking into these things, but
Mhm.
when we talked and you were coming on to the podcast, I'm like, let's listen to this. I found it really interesting.
Thank
I'm
you.
thinking, listen, these guys come up with some really great ideas.
Mhm.
And it's like, I hadn't thought about some of these things. You had mentioned cryptids to me
Mhm.
before, and
Yep.
I'm like, tell me more about what it is that you're looking at. Is it just ancient civilizations, or you're looking at the whole expanse from UFOs to cryptids
Everything.
and everything?
It's all connected. Every single thing is connected, and this is where people, because I do joke around, people think that I'm going to be an easy win on some type of debate, right? And then like I come at them and like, and this is how I do it. Take the Bible, right? Enoch would Enoch is not a nobody. Enoch is a seventh generation direct descendant from Adam. He was Methuselah's father. He was Lamech's great grandfather. He was Noah's great 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 grandfather. Everywhere there are several passages within the modern day Bible where they reference Enoch. Enoch was loved so much by God, he just took him. He never died. So you can't just snatch his book out and say, "Oh, he's a fruit. He's a quack. He doesn't make no sense, right? He's just don't. That's that guy. We don't even know who that guy is, right?" That's what they'll try to tell you. But if you just scratch the surface and get off page 2 of Google, the Catholic Church will tell you they took that book out on purpose because it raises too many questions that they're not prepared. It doesn't say they can't answer. And again, go look it up. They're not prepared to answer. All right. So let's put that right there. There's your biblical version of it. So you go over here and we'll take the people that, the Sumerian tablets was written, 15,000 years ago. And it talks about these Anunnaki that came down from the earth and they were aliens, right? They did this, they did that. All you got to do is read the book of Enoch and then read the Sumerian tablets. They tell the exact same story. The only thing that differs is that in the book of Enoch, he says that they were the watchers that left their post that came down, 200 of them. And the book of Enoch only names 12. So there's 188 watchers that weren't named. The same thing when it goes into the Sumerian tablets. Enlil, Enki, and I think their dad, I can't remember, En's their dad's name or whatever. Other than that, you don't know about the other ones that were down there. But in that story, it specifically tells you, it's right over my shoulder. That book ain't, you can get that book on Amazon for like $40. It ain't even hard to get, right? It specifically tells you that the Watchers, aka the same thing in the tablets, the Anunnaki, created animal human hybrids. And it says specifically they sinned against all manner of flesh on the earth. So when you see these Anunnaki, ancient Sumerian sculptures of a dog with wings and a human head. That's not artistic, expression. That was what they were doing. They saw that, right? And if you read it just a little bit further within the book of Enoch, there's a chapter in there called the Book of Giants. They created the Fae. Every fairy you've ever heard of was created by the Watchers or the Anunnaki. They created Bigfoot. Gilgamesh was acting up. He was a 16-foot tall king in Babylon. The Watchers, who were his parents, the angels, they created this Bigfoot called Enkidu to humble him, right? You start looking at any of these places, and then it goes on, right? And there's a flood, but there's a giant deluge, a flood, wiped out the earth, put everything away, right? But in the Book of Giants, they petition Enoch again to talk to God on their behalf, not to destroy them. And God says, "No, I will destroy you all. You're all evil unless you repent. If you repent, you have a chance." Then you go on and you look at these places called Mount Kailash, Mount Shasta. Go down to the pyramids down there in Antarctica. All their mythos stories say that they're protected by Yetis or Bigfoots. So, all this stuff is true. The snake in the garden wasn't a talking boa constrictor. It was a reptilian-like being, is what it was, right? In the Bible, it never ever once calls Lucifer the snake. It calls him a dragon. The dragon. He's only referenced to it. That's a matter of fact, that's all he's referenced to is like twice in there as the dragon, right? The dragon. And Lucifer didn't tempt Eve. He just asked her a question. All he said to her, and again, go look this up. He asked Eve, "Did God really say you can't eat from the tree of right and wrong?" That's all he said, right? He didn't say, Are you gonna let a man tell you what to do? Or did you really? Did he really say? No, they didn't say any of that. Adam wasn't even there, right? So when God shows up, he doesn't go, he immediately finds Eve. The first thing he says to her is not, "Eve, what did you do? How dare you?" He says, "Where's Adam?" He already knew what she did. He's looking for the man that he put in charge. Says, "Hey, make sure your wife doesn't eat from that tree." He never told her not to eat from the tree. Read the Bible. Eve's not why we fail. It's not called Eve's mess up. It's called the fall of Adam or the fall of man. He didn't tell her. It was his job, right? And so the serpent keeps his mouth shut, and it goes on saying, "You know what? You're forever banished. You're forever bound to crawl upon your belly." So why would a snake have to crawl on his belly unless he was walking? And it doesn't mean crawl on your belly. It means live inside the earth. They're in the earth, man. It even says that. Every single ancient civilization has a word for a shape-shifting reptile that can take on human form. Again, go look it up. It's on, type it into Chat GPT if you're lazy, right? The Hopi legend out of the Grand Canyon, they tell you, the Hopi, they tell you that they were brought out of the earth by shape-shifting reptilians that they called the ant people. It's not because they look like ants, it's because they lived like ants. They lived in these honeycomb hives in the Grand Canyon. By the way, you can't even go into the Grand Canyon now. They put these cast iron bars on all these cave entrances. Not the hardest metal on the planet, but if you follow the scripture, cast iron is what burns demons. So they can't touch it. That's why they put it there. It's all makes sense. And I tell people, these UFOs, these UAPs, they're not coming from the Andromeda system, dum dum. They've been here. They're just getting around. They're already here. Go look at all the crap that goes on in Brazil, right? Every time you see a UAP that's the size of a Volkswagen shooting across the star at Mach 7, what you think it just showed up from, the Orion system? No, it's here. We should not be looking up. We should be looking down. And if you know
That
any,
is interesting. Not to interrupt you, I mean, you're telling a fascinating story, but it jumps in my mind. One of the things we talked about early on in the podcast included inner Earth.
yeah,
And one of the things that I mentioned was the fact that, like, the aurora borealis isn't so much up here, but it's coming from the sun underneath or in the inner Earth, and all those things kind of lead to what you're saying is that
yeah,
there is, for lack of a better term, civilization in inner Earth.
yeah. So I'll even do. Look, I'll look, and I'll bring. Look, I bring receipts. Rear Admiral Byrd out of World War II was the youngest admiral ever to receive the Medal of Honor. This dude was a stud. You understand? Like he was literally the John Wayne of World War II when it came to the Navy. You never hear about him. We know the U.S. military, we knew that the Germans were trying to develop what they call the Wunderwaffes, the Lunderwaffes, the wonder weapons. We know that Hitler and the Germans were smuggling into Argentina. We know that they were heading to Antarctica. So after the war, Operation High Jump, they sent Byrd down there. It wasn't a research trip. That was an armada. That was a fleet. You don't send 40,000 guys down there to look for water. They went down there to fight. And we got handled. You understand? We had to limp back to Argentina. We got handled. He told them what he saw down there, that there was all this advanced stuff. All this stuff was down there. I have a video on my channel. The biggest pyramid on the earth is not the Great Pyramid in Giza. There's an 8-mile pyramid in Antarctica that's black, right? So they're not coming from outer space. They can't leave, just like we can't leave, right? So they can't get in unless they come in via a portal. You're not flying through our atmosphere here. And again, all you have to do is go and scratch the surface. And I know what people are going to say, oh, you're just taking it too far. Go read his diary. His son has his diary. Go read it. The U.S. military has never denied that diary exists or that it was true. They just don't talk about it, right? And say, oh, well, you're just making this up. You're making this up. No, you know what? You don't. Yeah, you probably haven't read a book in 10 years. If you haven't saw it on TikTok or Instagram, you don't believe it. And I'm telling you, if you know anything about how Freemasons work with their belief in the stupid belief of karmic retribution and how they have to tell us what they're going to do and we have to accept it, they're not allowed to hide it. And they don't. They put it in your face. They don't hide it. That's right. And so, yeah. And you know what? And take all that mountain aside. You got to say something's going on. It's not what we've been told. And if you can't meet me there, then I'm not the channel for you, man. I know. Pound sand, bro. Go down the street and catch Pokemon or learn how to play Black Ops 3. I don't know what to tell you, man, but this ain't I'm not the channel for you here, right? But
I think this is, part of what people call the Great Awakening. And it's not
right.
just to the things that are happening here in our visible earth. I think it's awakening to there is other life and that we
Yeah.
have been lied to and things have
So
been hidden from us. And so much of that needs to come forward because until those people, like you just said, who don't believe it, until it's on the television or in their mainstream, whatever vehicle they get, they're just not going to believe it because they've been fed over and over again for all this nonsense.
yeah.
And they believe the nonsense simply because they've been brainwashed, basically. So
Yeah.
it's really important that, people talk about this. And, it's for me, it's an eye opener. I really want to listen to more of your podcast because I'm
Thank you.
finding things I hadn't thought of that. That's really a good idea.
Yeah.
And do you think today that there are these beings, not just in inner earth, but that mankind, whoever maybe nefariously, are trying to have creatures to invade, let's say, our
Yes.
world?
Yeah. And it's not going to work. And I'll tell you. I will tell you that. I'll tell you. I actually have. I can bring the receipts on this as too. There's been a dogman sighting explosion in not just the U.S. but in other areas fairly recently over the last 10 years. And if you go back and you read old World War II papers that were being printed at 1944, 1945, you will see that U.S. service members, and this was getting reported in the United States of America in papers, you can go find them, were reporting encountering werewolves on the battlefield. Now, werewolves. Now, at first, you would think like it's they battle fatigue, or anything like that, right? They quickly stopped reporting that. But all you have to do is look at the following. Have you ever heard the story about Hansel and Gretel?
Yeah.
So every spooky little fairy tale you've ever heard was written in this forest called the Black Forest in Austria. That's where all these fairy tales come from. Right at the beginning of World War II, you start seeing SS officers with pictures with these really grisly scars on their face, like grizzly, right? And the propaganda they'll tell you is that they scarred themselves on purpose because they wanted to look more fierce. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard right there in my life, right? But when you go one step further, SS officers were the only people that were allowed to hunt in this forest, the Black Forest in Austria. The very first ever werewolf case ever reported was out of the Black Forest in Austria. It was a blacksmith. Now they caught him eating women and children in his dog form.
Mm.
They shot him. He turned back into, a regular person. He confessed saying that he made a deal with the devil that gave him this belt, right? And this belt allowed him to turn into a wolf. The Nazi officers were also had a group called the Thule Society that was really big into the occult. They were looking for Shambhala at the same time as they were looking for Antarctica. At the same time, they were exploring the Black Forest in Austria. SS officers who wanted to try to obtain the ability to become a super soldier would go into that forest and hunt werewolves. If you survived, you would develop that power. If you didn't, you obviously died. But the reason why they were scarred is because they got that scar during the fight and they couldn't heal it. Then you fast forward to the end of Operation Paperclip, where we take all the Nazi scientists and everything else, and then you coincide that with the German U-boats that were escaping to Argentina. At the exact same time that's happening, you get your very first ever dogman sighting in Australia. You get a werewolf sighting in Australia. Then after that, you start getting reports, much, many more years later, you come across a story that I've actually spoken to this man's wife. His name is Joe Barger. I have an episode on my channel. Joe Barger was attacked by a dog man in the Manatee National Forest. He was a day driver for a truck. He shot and killed it. 3 months later, he gets pulled over by the Department of Homeland Security. They tell him, stop talking about this. You killed our asset. Again, this is all over YouTube. It's not even hard to find. He's going to come on my channel and talk about it too. They froze his bank accounts, right? In 2022, there was a bill. You can go look it up. It's on my channel, on my Instagram, where the U.S. Congress was going to pass a law banning animal-human hybrid testing. We're going to ban it. We don't deny that we do it, right?
So again, in your face.
In your face. And it failed. Do you know why it failed? Because the Department of Homeland Security asked them to not do it so that they can grow hearts for humans out of pigs. Now, why the heck would the Department of Homeland Security care if we can grow pig hearts into? It's not even. They didn't even try on that one, right? All you got to do is pull the layer back. What area does the Department of Homeland Security supervise? All the national forests, all the national parks. Take the U.S. You take the U.S. missing person map that's on the website. Lay it across the map of the United States of America. All the hot spots are where? All our national forests. Where?
Oh my goodness.
Who has jurisdiction? The Department of Homeland Security, not the FBI. The FBI doesn't investigate missing persons in missing parks. Again, go look it up, right? And it's right there. You just got to look at it, right? So yes, and then it divides off to the reasons as to the why, right? We have the U.S. military super soldier program where these guys that lost control of the ability to handle it, and we had to track them down, or we won them, or who knows, right? I don't know that answer. I don't know that answer, right? I don't know the whys. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know the whys or the whats. I just know that story's real, this story's real, and that story's real, and there you have it. And so again, take it even one step further into the I don't know, the pile of lies that you want to believe. You want to believe on it. Lycanthropy is a word that was one of the first ever words. If you love your Sumerian tablets so much, it's in the Sumerian language. They had werewolves back then, so even then, because maybe the Anunnaki or the Watchers, they just made them for funsies. They just, let's make a dog man or whatever, right, to do it. So yeah, man, and then again, there's even another one that's blaringly in your face. That was the scientific portion of it. Now let me give you the religious portion of it. Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, and I even think Genghis Khan wrote reports of coming across men with the bodies of a man with the heads of dogs. They call them philanthropods or something weird like that. I can never really pronounce that name. And they talk about how fierce they were as warriors, and they couldn't beat them. Now, if Genghis Khan, Julius Caesar, and Alexander the Great are telling you that they can't beat these things, and they just best to be left alone, it must be something to it. But then I'll even add you one more. These things lived in North in Scotland. Hadrian's Wall was not built to keep the Celts out, right? It was built because the Roman legions that they were talking about, they encountered these beings in the northern part of the UK, and they couldn't beat them. So what they do? They caught one, converted it to Catholicism. His real name. I think his name is Saint Michael. Sent him back up there, and he calmed them down via religion. If you don't believe me, go type in on your Google, who's Saint Michael, and it's a saint with the head of a dog. And then you see him in multiple paintings around other men who are saints with the heads of humans. So why would they take one dude out of 40 and give him the head of Snoopy? Why would that even happen, man? It doesn't make sense, right?
We
Because
had
it's
a comment that said in Rome in the beginning there were two famous werewolves. Couldn't remember the names, and then they came up with this name. Is
yeah.
this name here familiar?
What is it?
Cynocephali.
That's it, cynocephaly. Go look at what that is. Go type that what that is, and then hold on, because you're going down a hole with that. Go type that in, right? I talked to a man on my podcast, Tommy. He lives in Poole, UK. He lives in over there. He has a buddy that saw one a year ago, dressed in military fatigues on the side of the road and ducked into the bushes when he saw it. So all this stuff is real. As crazy as you want to try to make it out and say that it's not real, it's all real. And they don't. And you notice too that you never hear the government come out and say they're not real. You never hear them come out and say it.
Right. They don't deny anything, and
They just don't.
it's
They just
almost
don't
as
talk
if
about it.
they have this information in various places that they know
Mhm.
people aren't going to look at.
Yeah.
The people, the average person is going to listen to, again, the television or their
Right.
mainstream media, social media. They're not
Right.
going to go and do the research that you do.
No. No. And again, what frustrates me, it doesn't frustrate. I'm not very good at like waking people up, right? Because I'm very much, bye Felicia, bye stupid. You know, I'll tell you that I'll tell you, hey man, don't drink that water. It's full of bleach. And if you chug it, and I'm like, hey, well, I told you, man, don't drink that water, man. I'm not gonna slap it out of your hand. I'm saying, right? So, yeah, do what you want to do. But no, it's totally. And the more and what the thing that I find that's really got its hooks into me is the more I go into it, it all runs together. It all bleeds together. Not only are not only does this prove Jesus is real and God is real, but it proves that our lives are not mundane. Our lives are this earth is not boring, nowhere even close, right? And we have been. Then I was talking to, I forget who I was talking to, but we've been denied our birthright. Our birthright was that this earth was given to us. And our birthright was all the mysteries of the earth and all this other stuff. But we're not even currently allowed to participate in none of the stuff that's really going on. None of it. We're not allowed, right? All these other guys are going about their business, but these other things are happening around us and underneath us. But like again, keep you sick, keep you stupid, keep you laughing at 45-second, TikTok videos, and then as you scroll to the next one, right? And then no one wants to get into it. But I do feel that I do feel that things are changing. I do feel that people are finally, you know what I'm saying, like trying to, like, just question. We don't question anything anymore. Where they're starting to, right? Like, so just ask, like, like no one asks why. Like,
Yeah,
not one
I
one.
think the last 4 years have
Yeah,
started people to say, wait a minute, something doesn't seem right.
yeah,
Now I'm going to start asking questions.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it took that because it seems to be a smaller population who questioned all the time. And
Mhm.
they were the ones to basically were told to shut up, stand
Yeah,
down, don't talk
yeah,
about it.
yeah,
And now you can't hold it back. With the
yeah,
internet, people are finding out more and more information. And with people like you out there talking about it,
yeah,
they're like catching on. They're like, we need to question everything. These things are
yeah.
real and we're not knowing about it. So now we need to go find out about it.
Yeah, so I was having a conversation literally before I came on here earlier. We were talking, and I know this is something that you are into. Is about how everything that we need to heal ourselves is already on the earth. But I even took it a step further. Stop making us sick. Right?
Right.
Right. So yeah, so you won't need all this if you just stop making us sick, right?
Yeah,
And
they
so
poison our air, they
yeah,
poison our water, they
yeah,
poison our food. I mean, there isn't anything that they haven't touched and they are the powers that want to keep us dumb and
yeah,
enslaved. But if they stop that, God made perfect bodies.
yeah,
Everything has messed up that perfect body, and now we have to get ourselves back to that and stop looking outward. We need to stop looking at somebody healing us. We heal
mhm,
ourselves, and
yeah.
all the things that we need to heal us is right here on earth. God gave them all to us.
And you'll be shocked at how fast the earth will heal itself. This is a true story. This happened this summer. I grew up in Upper East Tennessee, and as a kid, we used to run around barefoot all the time, catching lightning bugs. Right, just catching them. They were everywhere. Put them in jars. This year, Tennessee banned chemtrails, right, over Tennessee. I was home, I want to say, in either June or July. It was one of them hot days, one of those hot ones. I was sitting outside, and for the first time that I can remember in years, I'm talking 15, 20 years, there were lightning bugs everywhere. The lightning bugs came back instantly after they stopped spraying those chemtrails. I'm not even joking. Instantly came back, right? And so Mother Nature will right itself if we just stop poking at it, and we'll stop getting sick and stop needing all this stuff when they stop, poisoning. Which actually think is going to happen. I really think that that's going to, like,
I
come
think
rush.
the future is there and we're poised on
Mhm.
that. It's just we need to be vigilant. I mean, one
Yeah,
of the things that my husband always says is if we see someone stepping up to do evil,
yeah,
we the people need to take it down. We
yeah,
can't wait for some other entity, some legal system. We need to step in and intervene ourselves
yeah,
because we're the ones that suffer for it and we're the ones that need to
yeah,
protect the earth and protect ourselves.
yeah. When's the last time you heard anybody from Congress getting cancer? Just saying.
Yeah, really.
And
Uh,
matter of fact, they live to be 130 years old and they're still in Congress. They're there the whole time, right? So, like, these guys are coming in wheelchairs because they're 104. They've been there since 1910, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's ridiculous, isn't
yeah.
it?
But yeah, so I'm with you on that.
I wanted to switch gears just a little
Yep.
bit before we close out things because
Okay.
I'm going to honor your time, but I want to talk about Project First Step, and I
Yep.
wore my shirt. I don't know if you can
All right.
see
All
it.
right. I can see it. There you
Project
go.
First Step. Tell me about it. Tell me how it got started, what inspired you. What it does. Let everybody know and how they can help.
So, okay. Thank you. So, what Project First Step is a 501c nonprofit organization that I created specifically to help people who were suffering from a specific type of mental health issue called psychosis. And what happened was is that this is very serious and it doesn't get talked about enough. Is during COVID when they were isolating people, you teenagers started taking their own lives. And if you know anything about life in general, a men tend to check out more violently than women do, right? Women normally don't do it. Right in the middle of COVID, women started checking out in the most extreme violent ways that most men do, right? That's not normal, right? It's not normal. It's not normal for a and I don't care if it hurt your feelings or not. Men, we're not equal. Look, We don't even do that the same,
We're on
right?
the same page.
Yeah, we
We're
don't
on the
even do
totally
yeah,
same page.
talking to talking to your father. We don't even do that the same way. You go look how a man will do it, and then you go and look how a woman will do it, and it's not the same. And I was like, what again, what is going on? Why is that happening? That's not normal, right? That's not normal. They were also at the same time, liquor stores were not affected by COVID. Also, they were pumping marijuana very hard, and they also were pumping these unregulated chemical things as well, chemical marijuana, and also these mushrooms. So what I realized was, after doing, and I've saw this firsthand. My organization has helped people. I know, and you can go to my website, projectfirststep.com, and you can see everything I'm talking about. You isolate somebody long enough, and you put enough drugs in their system, their chemical makeup in their brains will change drastically to the point where they will start creating their own reality. And it's called a psychosis. It's called a chemically induced psychosis. If you give somebody LSD or mushrooms and they have any hint of schizophrenia in their brain, the brain will activate in a schizophrenic way, even though they'll go their whole life without it, because the brain has chemical barriers that keep that from happening. They start hearing voices, not their voices. They start hearing voices. Immediately, the parents think he's on heroin or he's on whatever, or she's. That's not true. They barely touch. Also, too, they barely touch the stuff. You take them to the doctor. The doctor says they're depressed. They give them antidepressants. That's wrong. They'll give them this drug called a benzodiazepine. That is way wrong. Right? There's only two drugs on the earth that you will die detoxing from. One is alcohol. The second one is any benzodiazepine. Yes, Xanax will kill you if you just stop taking it. They don't tell you that. They pass it out like Tic Tacs, but they don't tell you that, oh, by the way, you can't stop this cold turkey, or you might have a seizure that lasts for 5 minutes and you just will never wake up. And again, go look it up, right? So what they were doing is that they were misdiagnosing people who were having psychosis-based issues as being manic depressant or bipolar. If you give somebody who is having a psychotic episode antidepressants, you will turn them into the most violent person of your entire life. I'm not saying anything in this, but I'm curious to know how many people have done pew pew jobs, were on that medication, when really their diagnosis should have been on this. Now, there is a very good medication. Psychosis is very scary, very dangerous, and you'll be shocked at how easy it is to stop. You will be shocked at how easy it is to break somebody out of a psychosis. However, the drug that they use is very expensive. And I'm talking to the tune of 2,500 a shot, right? And it is very, very, very expensive. Although
Isn't
it's
that the way they always do it though? The things that help the most
yeah,
are almost inaccessible.
yeah.
That is intentional. I am certain.
Oh, it is, because I know for a fact, because of the research and the help I've had. I've helped people outside of this country. The same drug that you go to CVS to get here, to get that one injection, is about $2,700, and it's 250, but $250 in South America. It's 200. You heard me right. That's not
Yeah.
with the insurance. $250. It's cheaper than the plane ticket to go down there and get it, right? And let that sink in. But I saw this and I said, you know what, man? I can't. I'm getting in this fight. I'm not sitting down on this. 14-year-old girls are doing this and no one is asking why, right? No one is asking why. So I got in there. It was not, and I'll tell you what, it was not easy. Like I didn't know how to do it. I did it wrong. I got told no, had to go back, had to go do it again, got sent out, had to call the IRS. They told me to do this, had to do it again. And every single time it was, we'll let you know in 2 weeks. We'll let you know in 2 weeks. We'll let you know in 2 weeks. We'll let you know in 2 weeks, right? Finally got the 501(c) status. Finally got everything set up, and no one wanted to give me money. So I said, you know what? I'll do it myself. So I started throwing my own money. I threw my own money into it. I go into the Giants and the Safeways, and you ever see the Roundup program where like you want to
Yeah.
donate? I ask them every month, and they keep telling me no. And I keep telling them every month, I will be back in 31 days, and you're going to eventually tell me yes. You're going to eventually tell me yes, right? And it ain't your money. I don't know what's the
Why
problem.
do they say no? Do they give you a reason?
Thank you for reaching out to Giant and Safeway, and I just want to let you know that we support your things. However, we have a lot of other nonprofits, and I'm thinking to myself, like, it's not even your money. I go in there once a week, and it's always something different. Donate to this, donate to that, donate to this, right? And also, too, it affects veterans, right? You
Yeah.
see a lot of homeless. You see a lot of homeless guys on the street talking to themselves. That's a veteran in a psychosis state. He's been left alone too long. He's been on his own for too long. He's probably drinking bleach or whatever, right? And it's thrown him off. It's fixed. It's I've seen. I want to stop short of saying that it's a miracle drug, but I've seen it work in 24 hours.
Mm.
It goes right into their bloodstream. You don't have to fight them to take the pill, you just give them the shot, right? It goes right into their bloodstream. And the thing that I will say about it too that is amazing, somebody that's in a psychosis, when they come out of that psychosis, they remember everything, right? Everything. It's not a blackout. It's not a delusion. It's not a split personality where they don't remember that they said that or they did that. Everything that they think they're experiencing is 100% in their mind real. They're really experiencing it, right? And I think that, just me personally, the cases that I've obviously I can't talk about the cases, but the cases that I've helped with and the people that I've helped with, they all say the same. You gave my son back. You gave my daughter back. You saved his life. And I tell him, I didn't do anything. I just drove the truck. And when I do say that Jesus was involved in this to move me, because I was happy playing video games. I'm not even going to lie. Making funny videos on YouTube, playing video games. I was happy. And all of a sudden, God put a boot in my tail, and I was like, "Really?" And I'm, "Yep, okay, Dad. I'll make a nonprofit organization." And I know 100% that one day that it will be not needed at all, because things are going to change so much that it'll just come out. But right now, it's there. If you watch this podcast, when you see it, and I tell people all this time, nobody's got a problem telling you that Uncle Joey did 20 years in the pen for armed robbery, or that Nana likes to drink the moonshine every now and then, and we find her naked outside the VFW, every third Tuesday. But no one wants to tell you that the Papa was in there fighting the TV because the TV told him to throw it out the window. No one wants to talk about that, right? So don't be ashamed of that. A lot of people have went through that, and it was exasperated because of what we went through several years ago. Go there. The symptoms are on there. It's well laid out. Go to the website, projectfirststep.com. I don't need your money, but if you want to donate your money, please throw your money up in there. And if you need to buy a t-shirt, wear a t-shirt, whatever. And if you're just around a conversation and you hear somebody say something or whatever, whatnot, and you understand what's going on, just tell them to go to that website. Reach out on the email, right? All I really do is find out where you're at, tell you to ask the doctor about this specific. Boom. And every time, 9 out of 10 times, 8 out of 10 times, the doctor will be like, "Well, I never thought of that. Let me try it," and it'll work, right? And it'll work. And again, I'm not putting down anybody's doctor, but if you know how prescriptions work and how they get, incentivized to, hey, let's try this, it makes a little bit more sense. But at the end of the day, no one's going to fight for your loved ones like you. No one will, right? So you're going to have to do your own homework. You're going to have to do your research, and you're going to pray on it, right? And I'm not going to. And look, another thing too, I tell people is that it ain't going to be that fight ain't over. You get them there, you get them in, then the fight's over. Getting them there might be a different thing, but it gives you hope. It gives you a light at the end of the tunnel, man. You're not alone. You can go on there, and there's a couple of testimonies on there, and you can find it, man. Like I said, but that's why I did that. And like I said, no one was really doing it. I didn't want to do it, so like, but I did it, man. And so, and I'm grateful for it now, and I'm grateful for it now. But I give all the praise to God and to Jesus, like I said. And if you need help, we'll get you help.
Well, I'll be sure to put your entire link stack
Yeah,
with the video, the description, and anything I send out to make sure
sure.
not only do they watch the video, but they go to projectfirststep.com. I think that is really an amazing thing that you're doing, and I
Well, thank
applaud
you.
you for it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So, Joe, we have kind of gone over the hour. Thank you for that. It
No
just
problem.
was an amazing conversation. I'd love to have you back again
No,
because there's so much more I want to talk to you about.
yeah, no, I'm I'll come back anytime you want. So like, I will say that, you know what, I enjoy doing this. You know, I, s- it's more busy. I don't know if that's a real word.
Busier?
If I could speak proper, if I could speak proper, and I went from the South, it's more busier than I thought it would be, right? And so like, but anytime, man, like just, give me a couple days notice or whatever, and we can work it out, and we'll stick it on there, and I'll be glad. And I'll bring some of my friends along too. We can have a nice little four square here. We can chop it up if you want,
Excellent.
man. Yeah.
Sounds great. Again, this has been an excellent discussion. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and
Thank
I'm
you.
going to
Yeah, it's been fun.
encourage everybody not only to go to Project First Step. I think that's your first thing to
Yeah.
do,
Mhm.
and then go over to the Ancient Enigma Files on YouTube because I think that you've got that. I've got Project First Step, so we're all together. I have to tell you, this is a great shirt too. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
I love
Yeah.
the shirt.
When I tell everybody that the name of my YouTube channel is the Ancient Enigma Files, all the cool names were taken. so, so
I think that's a cool name. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong.
man. So it's a little mouthy, but whatever, man. Like it works for me, right? So
It's
yeah,
catchy. I like
it's
it. I
catchy.
like
It's
the word
catchy.
enigma. It kind
Thank
of
you. Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah,
catchy.
I call them my enigmites, right? So yeah, my
Yeah.
little cult.
Well, again, thank you, Joe. So
No problem.
appreciated. Thank everybody
Absolutely.
for watching. We've had a lot of comments. I couldn't keep up with them. I totally
Oh yeah,
apologize for that because they were coming in faster than I could read them. But we'll do it again. We'll be able to
absolutely.
ask the questions more. But until then, I hope you'll come back to Sovereign Sisters podcast
I
and
will.
go over to the Ancient Enigma Files
Yeah.
and
Yep.
join us again. And as always, I actually always feel this way about everybody. I truly gives God's blessing on everyone.
Absolutely.
So until next time,
Yep.
see ya.
Have a good one.